Hello everyone, my name's Marilyn Fleer. I'm from Monash University, and my colleague Richard Gunstone and I have an Australian Research Council grant that looks at the interdependence between emotions and cognition in early years settings. We're very fortunate to have a partnership with Berry Street and as one of our research sites, which is very exciting. What I want to share with you today is a little bit about what we've been doing and the theory underpinning it, and how that links directly with the outcomes and the good work that's taking place at Berry Street. Our own research, where we're looking at emotions and cognition and how the interdependence between those two sits very comfortably with early learning is fun. One of the central things that has come out of my work is that setting up a play environment, which we used to think what was important there was that play was something that came from within the child and didn't necessarily require more than the creating an environmental conditions which afforded the possibilities for all kinds of play to occur. We now know that that's actually not so, that the role of the adult is actually central to not only play, the development of play itself for children's psychological development, but we also know that in terms of children's learning in play-based settings, that the role of the adult is central. That doesn't mean that the adult teaches, but it does mean the adult is quite intentional in what they do. So at Berry Street we're very interested to explore that further, and with the notion of exploring how emotions and thinking come together in these play-based settings where some central concepts for learning are actually teased out a little bit more and better understood by the adults, in this case the families. So how a child feels about their learning really matters. So it makes a significant contribution to how they learn in the future, but also how they think about their emotions means that they can are in positions where they can better self-regulate or regulate their own emotions. So we know from bodies of research in both areas that those two things are important, but here we're seeking to specifically look at that in relation, in our case, to do with science concepts. So we've specifically looked at the concept of force and looked at how force occurs in children's everyday lives, and that how families give meaning to that concept through cultural practices, through everyday activities, and through that to make that concept in children's lives more visible through the adults guiding the children to notice a push or a pull in their everyday environment. But because we're interested in the element of emotions, we also are looking at the research not just from a cognitive point of view, but more holistically to see how children are feeling about their learning, what kinds of intentionality in their actions show that there is a lot of pleasure in what they're doing, and also how through that we can start to name those kinds of emotions in a particular way in relation to their thinking, so that they can think about their emotions and therefore self-regulate their emotions and self-regulate themselves in the context of how they might be feeling at that moment. So we think those things are interesting to explore, and Berry Street has given us a fabulous opportunity to work in partnership with them to look at that, and then from that to perhaps as part of the processes of what Berry Street does and what Monash University does, to explore ways forward to operationalise, if you like, the learnings from the project in a number of ways. So one in relation to further professional development, or in other ways in terms of creating more resources like these clever cards, so that they can be supportive of the different cultural communities that Berry Street supports.